There we go. That frozen face. How you doing, my brother?
What's going on, brother? Yeah, sorry about that, man. They're always updating these things, so it's hard to keep up, man.
I mean, Eric, I'm the one that apologized. Honestly, you're not my first guest that this happened to. I'm just gonna send a little reminder before starting because, yeah, like you said, it's crazy sometimes how much there's updates, and I guess they
Yeah,
block it for the lives. But that being said, how you doing?
I'm great, man. It's a glorious day. It's Friday, and we're all excited. Everything's in motion. Everything's moving along. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, brother.
Likewise, it is my pleasure. And for people who don't know Eric, like I said, his name is Erik Cabral. And first of all, am I saying your family name right?
Yeah, yeah, it's totally fine. The Portuguese and the Spaniards like to call us Cabral, but
Cabral.
I don't tell people to say that because here in America we just say Cabral. That's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna say Cabral.
Cabral.
Eric Cabral. I'm
Cabral.
using my hands too, bro. Trying to get you more
Cabral.
comfortable with
Cabral.
your Mexican and Mexican. Sorry, with your Spanish and Portuguese background. So, my brother, there's so many things that I want to talk to you about because you're just phenomenal, man. From being a podcaster, from having your own agency, from doing investing, and I want to start off with personal brand. Why that is because I know that's something that you talk about a lot. I think you're very predominantly good at. And there's a lot of people nowadays, me included, that are very interested in developing their personal brand towards for personal reasons, for business, for selling products, and so on and so forth. And I want to know, how did you start dabbling into that personal brand? And what do you think is probably one of the best vehicles to develop somebody's brand in itself?
Yeah, remind me of the second question after I answer the first one. So,
I got you. I got you.
because I may forget. So the reason that I created a personal brand was because when I decided to leave corporate America after 20 plus years, I didn't have one. Obviously, it was something sort of new. My understanding of it was, okay, I understand, Oprah Winfrey, and I know Tony Robbins, and is that a personal brand? Because it seems like they, have it down, right? And then I started to recognize and notice a lot of people were sort of operating at that level, even though they were not big and famous like those folks. So I started to grasp that concept, especially around like Gary Vee. He was always talking about document your journey. And I was doing a lot of things, right? As you mentioned, I was doing real estate investing. I was, starting a creative agency. And then I was doing a lot of podcasting. So people would get confused. Like when they saw my content, they were like, what do you do, bro? Like, are you an investor or are you a creative guy? Like, so I was like, why don't I just create one place so everyone can go and understand what the heck I'm doing? And that was really, really the sort of crux of like where it all sort of came from and why I did it.
Okay, very cool. So it's understanding what you were developing, and then it's like, okay, this has to be clarified because some people, like you said, were having certain difficulties to understand what you were particularly doing. And Eric, tell me, so the second part to that question was, what do you think is probably the best vehicle right now to develop your personal brand? And I know for you, you push it a lot in podcasts, but is that the only way? Is it the best way? Is there other ways? How would you go about it?
I would say podcasting is one of the best ways. There's many, many different ways, obviously social media. But with a podcast, it's wonderful, whether you're on one side of the mic or not, meaning you're a guest or you're a host. If you could be both, there's power and magic behind that. But I do highly recommend podcasting as one of the main vehicles for creating a personal brand because when you record and you invest that 1 hour, that 45 minutes or whatever it is like this, recording something with someone or solo, you're creating something that can be chopped up in millions of pieces of content that you can distribute on social. So then there's the social aspect of it. Another way to sort of do it that I sort of got my, tipped my toe in was going live, like this, just telling people what I'm doing. The personal brand can develop for you and in a way so that you can alert people and give people some sort of inspiration behind what you're doing so that, it's quick and easy with live, right? When you go
Mhm.
live, it's done and then you move on, right? So those are two wonderful ways to sort of get started.
I love that, Eric. And I just want to highlight a couple of things you just mentioned. So the podcast is definitely something that's very interesting. And one thing that I want to add within that, if you permit, Eric, the
Yeah.
fact that I'm a huge fan of doing the podcast world and like you said, towards interviewing or getting interviewed, is that it's probably an hour to 30 minutes. And within that time frame, the listener could really get a great idea of who you are as a person, your personality, your thought patterns, your ideologies, your philosophy, so on and so forth. Towards if you're trying to do something quick, it takes a bit more time for people to really get what kind of person you are. If you want to do a reel for 30 seconds, they'll get a gist of it, but not that much. So that's one thing. And I love the way that you said that you take one big bulk of content and you break it down with your team or you, and then you separate it towards the other platforms, which I am a huge fan as well. Me personally, in my business, I put out like 10 to 11 original content per week. And what I do is throughout my YouTube videos, the main one that I do one motivational Monday and then one blog. And then from there, we kind of break it apart. So I 100% understand that. Love and it. Eric, tell me, why first of all, are you still in real estate? Do you still do some investing, or that's more like passive? Okay, that's something you do active. How do you separate your time? Is it mostly on the podcast side, or how do you structure your day like on that end?
So to answer your question and to clarify, yes, I am still a real estate investor, active in a way where I attend meetings, I speak, I host events. Not active in a way where I'm doing due diligence and I'm boots on the ground on properties. Yes, I'm at our properties, but these are properties that my partners have acquired or they're looking into acquiring. And that's my involvement in terms of like my active versus passive. But yeah, what was your other question, Chris?
Okay, so no, essentially that's what it was. And I was wondering where you spend most of your time, but you kind of answered. Yeah. So I'm guessing.
Yeah, so most of my time is spent in PodMax. So PodMax is I like to call is the world leading podcast networking podcasting event where we actually podcast during the day all together, and then also training incorporated into it. And no one's really doing it other than us, and that is where a lot of my time is spent in the bulk of my day. And then the creative agency or the media agency On Air Brands is third on that list.
Okay, cool. And can you find it? Because I was looking at it, your Podmas, what I understand is like this event, like you said, they kind of put together, kind of like a speakers event, but for podcasters, and you guys kind of collaborate together, essentially. That's what I'm understanding. Talk to me a bit more about that. Let's unpack that.
It does a lot of wonderful things. It's really hard to describe, but I'll put it in simple ways that people can really just digest. It's speed dating for podcasters and entrepreneurs, business owners that want to get on podcasts, right? So you and I know is getting on podcasts is we either pitch ourselves or we know someone with a podcast, but that can only go so far. And then you can hire a booking agency, which will get you on shows, maybe depending on your appetite and speed is, one a day, one a week, whatever it is. Well, we get people on 3 to 4 shows in one day. And in between recordings, they're networking, they're meeting like-minded individuals. Before the event, we train them on how to speak. We listen to their stories and we identify, oh, maybe there wasn't really a call to action there. What are you trying to do? What's the purpose of your guesting? A lot of people get on podcasts because they know this is an industry they need to get into, but they don't really think ahead, 12 moves ahead. What is my call to action? What is the strategy behind? What value am I delivering? And then what do I want in return, right? So that's where we sort of help people along before they even come to the event.
That is so amazing, Eric. That sounds really interesting. And like you said, it does sound different. Like I've never heard anybody else do that, and I'm definitely interested to be a part of that as well. But one thing you mentioned I wanted to highlight is that you help people set their intention. And you're absolutely right. A lot of people go into anything, towards a meeting, towards a podcast interview, towards an interview, whatever the case is, without necessarily setting the intention. And it's really important to be like, hey, what is the goal of this opportunity, of this collaboration, and what do we want out of it? And you set the intention. Like same thing over here. I'm sure, Eric, you set an intention before coming on the Friday Flow, and you're like, yo, what is my intention for this? And then as you set it, then it's easier to hit it. So that's awesome. And talk to me about your agency as well. So agency, do you put people like on shows? What kind of work do you do with the agency when it comes to that?
Yeah, so to give people a quick history, so On Air Brands was developed as a creative agency, but has like evolved into a media agency, a multimedia agency. And its main purpose right now and focus is the development and creation of podcasts, right? So we have over a dozen podcasts that we produce, and that's what birthed PodMax, because I had access in a network of podcasters that I knew and loved. And I was like, some of them were like, hey, I was connecting people already, like to get on their shows. So I was like, let's just make it official. Let's get you, these are our shows. These are the people that we know and love. And then it turned into Podmax. So On Your Brands is really just, it's simply that. It's the creation and production of podcasts.
I love it.
And all the social media promotions behind each episode.
Okay, cool. So you have the whole structure. So they just do it, and then you split it up and you give it to the podcaster, which is amazing. If somebody's really busy, that is a huge thing. I have a team that does that for my stuff, and it's huge weight off your shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
And Erik, as you're like talking about this, you're definitely an expert within this industry, in this field. What is your ideology? What's happening within the podcast world right now? I still believe, my personal opinion, it's a wild west. You could kind of do whatever you want, which is beautiful. I love that. But at the same time, now we're seeing big dollars from corporations coming in, such as Spotify taking on Joe Rogan, taking on Call Her Daddies. Like, some big podcasts are getting bought out by them. What's your ideology? Is it oversaturated at this point? Is there still some opportunities? Is there huge money coming in that we don't even know about? What's your ideology with the world of podcasts going forward?
So all of the above, right? The podcast industry is exploding, right? It's the Wild West, like you said. There's opportunities for people that have baked in communities and audiences like Joe Rogan and Call Her Daddy. And then there are people, they're leveraging their former careers, like Smartless and the guys that host that show. They had a television and movie career, and then they, Jason Bateman and the other folks, they're escaping my name, but they grabbed the audience and they built the momentum with a podcast, and they sold that, right? So now they are swimming in it, and they don't have to record or show up on set anymore, like at a studio. It's taking a different form for actors in Hollywood to leverage. So that's that sort of demographic. But then there's us, right? What do we do with podcasting? So the bit of information that I want to give people in the podcast industry and people who want to get into it is, let's not think of it as traditional radio, right? Traditional radio is done, right? That's a different format. Maybe it looks and feels like a radio station or a radio show, but that was driven by sponsorship and ads, right? And that's what people automatically assume podcasting is about. Like, as soon as they come to us, clients are like, oh, what ads can I get? What sponsorships can I get? Yeah, let's talk about your baby first before you go stamp 1-800-mattress on its head. Let's birth the baby and grow the baby and develop it first. So when you think of it that way, and then you also think of it as a way to build relationships with people, and you have a business outside of the podcast, and the podcast is just a spoke on the marketing wheel, right? It's not the business. So that's the thing that people get mixed up. They think they want to get into podcasting for the biz. That's my business, and I'm going to be Rogan, and I'm going to sell it. That's a lotto ticket. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I recommend, is go in with intention of, I'm going to build this for my brand, for my voice, to build a community eventually and hopefully. And then all the wonderful sort of things start to bloom and blossom around the fact that you're podcasting. You're giving people an opportunity to share their story on your show. And now you're talking to them about business that you can develop together.
I love that, Erik. And you kind of broke it down for a very entrepreneurial approach, which I love, because a huge part of my community is entrepreneurs. And you said it, like, if you want to look at, hey, you want to become that superstar like Joe Rogan and sell it, that can happen, but it's not necessarily the most predominant thing that happens. That's pretty rare. But what you can do with podcasts is build amazing relationships, connections, which will help your business in itself. So for me, I'm a professional speaker and a coach. So by doing podcasts, by meeting people, I've been getting so many opportunities I didn't even think it's possible. So just the possibility to do that. And I love that you brought that up. And it's so true that everybody has knowledge. Everybody has something to share. And whatever your expertise is, just go on a show and start sharing it. So I do love the way that you broke that down. Very valuable there. And Erik, my next thing that I kind of want to sway towards, because I do know, like I said, want to kind of go back to the investing thing. I had one question on this end. Yeah. I know that you do real estate investing and stock market. I come from a real estate background. I'm a huge fan of both of those sides. Is there one that you would say is more valuable than the other? And this is a very vast question. I'm leaving it at that so you can kind of run with it the way you want. Just by speaking with you a bit, I kind of know what you're going to say, but go for it. Go for it.
Well, so thank you for pointing that out. And most people don't even ask this question. So good on you. And you're a wonderful interviewer and podcaster here. Is that it really depends on your appetite for risk, right? So let's understand that Wall Street and the market is volatile, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have no control over it. That being said, if you have money to invest that you can play around with, if you're in a W-2, right? You got a mutual fund, you got something, you got an IRA or something where you could put it in there and then someone's going to manage it for you, right? You don't really have control over it. But that is good because now you're working in a job and you're collecting a paycheck and that wealth is hopefully building. And then at some point, if you leave, like I did, corporate America after 20 plus years, I took the money and I put it in a self-directed IRA, which means I direct where the money goes and flows,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I started to realize that I had more control and power within real estate, not Wall Street, because I'm not a money manager. And it takes a lot to understand every business that you're investing in, right? There's some people that are really, really good at it. I identified that I was not one of those people that wanted to analyze 25, 30, 80 deals, I'm calling it, but they're companies, right? And I don't have access to Elon Musk. I do invest in Tesla. It's done very well. Tesla is buying me a Tesla, by the way. So,
Let's go.
Yeah, it's great. That's the wonderful, cool hack, bro, is if you can buy a car by having the company who created the car buy you the car because you invested in their stock and it blew up. Now you just take $60,000 and buy a Tesla with it. And I say, thank you. I just got a free car. But anyway, that's a little hack. So what's cool about investing is you have control. You have access to the operator, right? The Elon Musk. Because now you can shake their hand. You can go walk around the property. You can say, this is beautiful. I love you and I trust you. You have a vision. You have an amazing project here. I want to be a part of it. And that's what I love about real estate. Because then now I take the money that I made in corporate America and then I put it in deals, right? And it help them, help me, and help all of us grow.
I love that. I love that. And definitely along the lines of my ideology. And one thing I wanted to kind of highlight once again is that you kind of mentioned get good at one thing and kind of develop that. And that's my ideology when it comes to mastery. Like you could do everything, but you probably won't do everything well if you're doing it. So pick one. If it's stocks, beautiful. If it's real estate, beautiful. And I do believe, personal opinion, there's a bit more control on the real estate side of things towards the stock market. But I love one last thing I'm going to say on that end. Buy your toys with what your investment is giving you. You should not buy your toys with your paycheck. If you have a W-2 or if you're whatever the case is. And this great example, you're getting a Tesla paid by Tesla. That's pretty dope. That's a cool story. Every time someone gets in your car, I hope you'd be like, Elon Musk paid for this car for me.
It's a wonderful hack. It's a wonderful hack.
Definitely. So Erik, my next thing that I wanted to kind of ask over there, and you kind of alluded to it, and I know there's a lot of people that have this desire to potentially do things by themselves. And maybe they're in the structure of corporate America, the rat maze maybe, or they're just comfortable. Let's not belittle that. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that I know that work in the system and within the company and work super well. Well, talk to me about your journey. What were you doing for 20 years in corporate America? Why did you decide to leave? What happened? Was it scary? Talk to me about the difficult pain points of that process as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely scary. I was doing it, like you said, 20 plus years. It was a routine. It was a habit. It was predictable, right? So predictable can be less exciting. And that was my life. I was in the grind. I was at the water cooler talking about The Walking Dead, things that just happened over and over every day. And the people around me, if they weren't a partner in the business and they were someone like me at my level as a manager or as an employee, they weren't talking about what we talk about now in business, right? It wasn't that level of expertise and knowledge, right? So I got very familiar with it. And then I was getting laid off for the second time, which I always say is a blessing because 20 plus years, in corporate America only happening twice. So that was the aha moment for me because I was driving to the job that I was being laid off of, and I was listening to Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the audiobook. And he was saying things to me that I always liken to the pill in the Matrix. And I was like, holy crap, this is zeros and ones. This is what the rich do. Oh my goodness. Like I've been a fool all along. I have not known anything about financial freedom, creating legacy wealth. And there's a big difference, Chris, between being rich and being wealthy, right? So if you're rich, you can go buy the gadgets, you can go buy the sneakers, you can buy everything that you want, but you're spending your paycheck, like you said, and you're waiting for the next paycheck, right? You're not creating wealth. Wealth is generational. Wealth is when I die, my kids have the money. When their kids die, they have money. They all still have money based off everything that I'm building and creating, which is legacy, right? So that's my goal and has been my goal since I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I was listening to this book, bro, and I was like punching the steering wheel as I was driving out of anger, frustration, and inspiration that there's more to life. If I just level up this, I need to level my mind to get to where I want to go in order to accomplish all this. So that was the moment for me.
I love that so much, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the book. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert.
That's
Kiyosaki.
a good one too.
Yeah, that's a good book too.
Great.
Yeah, I was kind of gonna say that is a good book. It's squeezed in this conversation. So yeah, Robert Kiyosaki's book. I mean, there's so many people that book really helped twist and churn and really see different things. And you mentioned something. I love it. Being rich and being wealthy, two different things. And I'm gonna add upon this over here. Being wealthy is your mindset more than your bank account. Because I could actually defend the fact that, Erik, the second that you understood that in your car and you had just gone fired, that was the moment you became wealthy. Even though your bank account was probably not to the point that it is now, but it's the mindset first. So people that are looking at it right now, oh, I'm not wealthy because I don't have this in my bank account. It doesn't matter what your bank account is. It really depends about here over here. And then as you see it, see opportunities differently, you hang around people differently, you talk about things differently, then the abundance will follow. And I love that you highlighted that. So congratulations on that aspect. And my next part of that question, how long did that aspect happen from quitting to finding that I want to do in real estate? What was that period? Because a lot of people don't talk about that period.
Yeah.
And that period is like that little dip, which is probably the most difficult part. And then once you hold on to that dip, then it's when it kind of explodes. So how long was that dip for you?
Yeah, 100%. And thanks for bringing that up, because a lot of people don't highlight failures, right? They was like, here's the wins, you know, like everything you see on social is filtered, right? Wins. I love sharing failures, right? So relatively speaking, it was a win, right? Over the period of time that I became a real estate investor, I just became ravenous to absorb information and surround myself with people that were doing what I wanted to do, right? That's critical. If you want to do something, whether it's investing or you want to be a podcaster, whatever it is, find the people doing what you want to do and just shadow them, provide value, do anything you can to help them in their business. You'll learn, right? You'll learn and you'll earn. So then what I started to do was build a network of real estate investors and provide value in their life through what I was good at, which is creative, you know? And within 8 months, I bought my first multifamily building and I operated it on my own, which I still do today. Unfortunately, I do want to give that to someone to manage. But dude, it wasn't easy, man. This was the hardest part, readjusting and reprogramming my mind and going into what my wife calls Erik 2.0. Right. And upgrading and finding out and removing the things that were toxic in my life and bringing in all the positivity. And then there were struggles, you know, I had to evict people, and then I had to deal with frozen pipes because we had an unprecedented, you know, 100 below zero, whatever it was, and the tenants were gone and I was like, wait a minute, I need to go over there. And it was a hot mess. And I'll never forget that moment, dude. I broke down. I was literally on my knees crying to my wife. Like, what did I do? This is a mess. But then once I fixed it all, bro, it's all gravy, man. This is life, right? You fail, you get up, and you learn from that failure. It was a lesson for you.
I love that. I love that. And you kind of broke it apart, right? From that moment that you're crying on your knees, that's like macro, and you're not looking at the micro, that's micro, and not looking at the macro level. Like, hey, let's take it a step back. And life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. So that moment of you realizing, oh, wait a minute, maybe I need to learn how to do plumbing when it comes cold and this, that, and the other, probably saved you so many more problems down the line if you are managing your own property, so on and so forth. So I love that, Erik. And I feel like, man, I could jam with you until tomorrow morning, but I want to be respectful for your time. And I just want to ask you this last question. Erik, what can I do to support you more? Is there anything that I could do to help you out to support you?
Dude, brother, I feel the same way. Anything I can do to help and love and support you as well. Podmax, we're August 27th. You're welcome to come. As a
Beautiful.
podcaster or as a guest, you let me know which side of the mic you want to experience. And we're always looking for amazing keynote speakers. Just to give you an idea of the sort of criteria and the avatar for this, I want to make an announcement here. This is it.
Please.
I haven't said this yet. So
Let's
Caleb
go.
Silver, Caleb Silver, the editor-in-chief of Investopedia, will be one of our keynotes. So we have three. So he's probably one of the main ones. And we're going to keep bringing on, we had everyone from VaynerMedia, other than Gary. We're still working on him, but literally everyone from James Orsini to Claude Silver, Maribel Laura, they've all come in as keynote speakers. So we're always looking for anyone who has a connection to the people that want to help and provide value and educate and inspire our community at Podmax. So anyone that could do that, we just want to love on them. And yeah, podmax.co is really like the wonderful place to go and check out what we're doing.
I love that. And I'll link that all in the description below 100%. And Erik, let me know when it's going to be live or whatever the case is. I'll promote it on my stuff as well. It'll be my pleasure. And one last question on that end. Is it something that you're doing face-to-face or it's on Zoom right now, or does that completely stop? Because I know you're in the greater region of New York, if I'm not mistaken, Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I know you guys are good right now.
We Zoom, so it was live at some point, and we'll bring that back, in the future. But right now, it's all virtual, so people can come in from anywhere around the globe, and they do. We get people from Australia, crazy. Like they're in Australia, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. The other day, it's like time travel, right? They're in another day, another zone. And we get people from the Philippines. We get people from everywhere, all over the world that can Zoom in. So yeah, it's all virtual. Anyone is invited that wants to attend or experience it in some way. So yeah, appreciate that, brother.
Awesome. All right, beautiful. So everything will be linked up. Erik, once again, thank you very much for blessing us with your time, with your energy. I love your smile, brother. I'm just going to tell you right now, you had a smile from ear to ear from the get. Man, awesome job. Keep on doing you. And I will definitely promote that. Let me know if I could support you with anything else on that end, all right?
100%. Appreciate you.
All right, have
Thanks,
a blessed one, brother. All right, no problem. Ciao, ciao.